listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. I'm tying my shoe here. Let me close the vehicle door here. Another day, another dollar. I'm trying to adjust some of this sound out away from the preset, but I think I might have too much bass in it. I could actually probably take care of that real quick here. Put on the high pass filter. See if that works any better. Then again, I have a second noise gate, so I don't know what that's going to do. Let me make sure that it's on. So yeah, we got to get the sound right. Hopefully I can do it over time. This is good for some presets, and then you just kind of run with it. Having a lot of background noise doesn't help. If I was out over at Olathe or some of the trails they have walking, it'd be a lot quieter. I mean, they do come up on roads, but the majority of it's quieter. So remember, I was just talking to my neighbor. He's going to a baptism for his grandkids. He's one of the people that probably has a few dollars here. He's just staying, to visit, I guess. He's not living here. But, the earth is a living being. And I don't know. He might be speaking politically, because he said, I said there's not much left. The planet, because his kids, grandkids he's speaking about. And I said, I don't know if there's much left for them. And he said, I hope that changes one day. And he might be saying change as president. I mean, that's the biggest joke on the planet, that actually changing presidents does anything. Now, again, the Democratic Party people will feed people. And as long as they keep focused on that, there's not much out there that's going to do anything close to what God wants done. Again, they focus on the sin, and this is going to be something I'm going to speak about right now. The Bible says sin's going to happen. I think the church misinterpreted it, and again, selfish people do selfish things, even in the name of charity and Jesus and all of that. They're saying that the person that sins, I think they're thinking the person that sins, woe to the person that sins. That's not really what it says. It kind of actually says this person that sins wrestles against something. And that's the woe. The woe is to the thing that it wrestles against, and it does reside in bodies. Well, I think I'm going to change this a little bit and see what happens. I might have to take the volume. I'm going to change the preset. All right. Let me see what I got going on here. Probably about the same thing. I did something to the noise gate. Actually, I did something to the noise gate. It's probably turning the bass up a little bit. Picks up a lot of that background noise. So I don't know if anything's better with this setting. We'll just go back to this one and use this one. Maybe the other one's a little louder. I don't know. If I had a wife, she would know because she could listen to it on her phone and tell me which one's better. And she could speak also. Broadcast from my phone. Actually, this particular app, you can, as long as you're signed in, you can have multiple people speaking from separate phones. I don't know how coordinated that is. You might have to actually pause. I don't know. So, and again, I'm not advocating harming children, because when you do this, you have to say this because they're that ignorant, that infantile, that if I say the little ones in the Bible doesn't speak about little kids, it speaks about being humble, being childlike, but it also includes children. So again, there's an issue of leveling the honesty field, the playing field, the scripture field, before you can even speak to these people that call themselves the church. Or the people that use it. Like people in law enforcement, they'll use Christianity in that fashion. And again, those are the churches that the CIA backs. Because they don't want you to think that a humble person is supposed to be treated a certain way, or the people treating that person in a poor manner are, destined to hell, essentially, because they're holier than thou. That's where their rating is. But the Bible does not allow the holier than thou. Again, if you're a Christian and you're self-righteous, and again, Christians have learned some neat tricks. I've spoken about it myself, where when I was in a church, the Christian thing to do is it's okay to gossip as long as you start, well, not to gossip. But, so again, the Christian thing to do is not to gossip. Not to say not to gossip. So they have these neat tricks of how to twist the Bible so they can do what they want as a ruler. Again, this is what they're doing. It's called ruling. And because of what they ruled, God has to work a certain way through their rule. And that's why God comes up as that vengeful thing. But you're confronting God with a no-win scenario, so God's going to win. But he has to go through a series of things. And again, that's going to take billions of years, most likely. Now, going back through time and space and all of that. So again, the idea is that if you're righteous in your own eyes, and again, one of the tricks Christians use is that they are fallen. They'll kind of say it, but it has no heart to it. It has no meaning. That's not what they actually mean, because they are what I call the sin counters. If you're a sin counter, Jesus didn't come to save you because you're righteous, self-righteous. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be with Satan. Again, you can't have two masters of you. Now, does that mean that you sin or don't sin? People are going to sin. The Bible says that. So we can't leave that out, because that destroys what the intention of the entire book is. The awakening to sin that exists. God told me I brought the law that God brought the law, because again, FBI goes, see, you said I brought the law. I mean, they're in here shifting inference and everything else. They're devils. Their psychologists and their psychology major agents are actually using that in a Nazi way, in a concentration camp type way, in a way to shift people in a prisoner of war camp to what they want them to be. Again, if they have people in a prisoner of war camp, they don't always want them to take their side. They want them to take the other side so they can harm them and get that part of themselves out and feel good and sexy about it. It's called psychosexual. So when you're those sin counters, Jesus didn't come to save you because you're self-righteous only. Now, Jesus didn't come to save me anyway, because remember, I'm saved 50 different ways. But you're not all of you, believe me. So what took over the church is what was there, and I've said this for probably a decade and a half. What took over the church is what Jesus came to protect people from. And Satan will go, well, then it's useless, isn't it more? No, there's people that go to heaven, believe me. They're not the people you would think. A couple drag queens. So what's happened is this. They have to be that, or they become something that we consider worse. Again, I don't want to offend people that have a certain belief in life outside of maybe something that other people believe or that I believe or that anybody believes. But being who they are allows them not to take the mark of the beast. While being a drag queen causes them not to take. Yes, that's how you've rigged the earth. Again, remember I spoke about your rule, all of you. Your rule has ruled them to be a drag queen, or they have to go kill someone because all the demons attack their head. That's really what's going on. That's where the churches are. The churches are actually commanding people to sin with their will, with their rule, quite frankly. That's what it's called. And again, just to preface something, the term quite frankly in statement analysis is BS in my life because I actually have to fight not using quite frankly because I don't want to hear from some agent how that means something different. Again, I do have to credit a news article I posted recently speaking about some sort of statement analysis because it says if it's not usually in your diction, in your verbiage, then, if it's usually in your diction and verbiage, then it doesn't count as a statement analysis. But again, the people that are around me always manipulate and lie. So it doesn't matter. But what that does is the psychology of that throws off my ability to speak naturally. So then it's all bets are off because you can't use psychological methods on me. And then, of course, see, I did right there and it worked. You see, that was our base model. No, you can't. You tortured me with it. You can't use it. And that includes Facebook. Facebook, I'm sure, was using digital tunnels in what it was doing to me. And a lot of times it was messaging. Like, you receive a message, can't do that right now, or whatever. Just like a real small, stupid message. Because I was posting long posts, and of course, they're not against long posts. They're against the people from the FBI and the CIA and the Marshal Service and the police department that were actually corrupt around me were against the content of my post. And they would post this really long, like, abusive statement towards me. Like it's actually just a message. How do I know it's Facebook? I'm sure it's Facebook. I'm sure there's some hacking, but I'm also sure it's Facebook. And I'm sure it's Google, and I'm sure it's Twitter, and I'm sure it's all those people that were saving the world while Twitter, Google, and Facebook were doing narcotics and having orgies. But yet they were the holier than thous. Maybe they hired the 5 virgins. I don't know. Remember the FBI 5 virgins? They'll bring their 5 virgins out for you to meet. Even if they're not virgins. They know how to act like that. They sit there on wiretaps and study your churches. So they know what to say. Hey, brother. That man's a sinner. Meanwhile, hey, what time's orgy? Well, you all want to manipulate the truth, so then I'll put it in your face. So again, you can't be a sin counter, and God showed me something, the word sinless. Again, I can't see it on my own. The word sinless actually means sinless. So they'll say, we're not sinless, but they say they sin less. So God already covered that when he created English. I'm going to wave to the cameras. Hi, you guys watching me? State police there, whoever taps into that highway cam. All right. So where am I now? So when we see people, again, what do I say? I'm a sinner saved by grace, and it's pretty true. I mean, I'm truthful about it. I'm not like all of you. Again, I believe you all were truthful when I was in the government, when I was in the military, when I was growing up. I didn't know the inside existed. Again, that's where God judges, and that's where Jesus was speaking about, and all of that. But it's their will. They're willing against God, and then they say, "Well, I will with God because they're gay, and I will them this." No, you can't. You have, it has to be God's will. You have to. That's something you have to allow. Now, you can speak all day, but you can't move the will because you're going to say what you're going to say. It's part of that sinning because something's causing you to fall in sin. But what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't cause your neighbor to fall in sin. And now it's a science. It's like a CIA science and how to cause your neighbor to fall, and everyday people have it. They leak the crown jewels in every agency and department that they could make money off of leaking it from. Let's not split hairs here. Let's not pull punches. They made money leaking every psychological method they could make money leaking. And money being remuneration in whatever way that would come to them. Very interesting. So saith one of the people that did it. They're in the head trying to boondoggle it. Oh, I got to speak about this robin. Somebody must have been feeding this robin because it's in front of me on the sidewalk, and it's pecking at the ground and looking at me. And then it starts walking closer to me, pecking at the ground, looking at me. So it's like looking at me saying, "Why aren't you feeding me?" Because at first I'm like, "What are you doing? There's nothing there to eat. Ooh, that's nasty." It's like a little hole with like muddy water. And I don't think it was drinking because the way it just kind of picked it and threw it around. I was having a fit because I wouldn't feed it. So I remember the squirrel. My neighbor died. My neighbor was going to drive me to an apartment, to an appointment, not an apartment, to an appointment. Maybe for an apartment, maybe that's what was missing. You know? But he was going to drive me to an appointment, a medical procedure, and he drove off the road and died, like 2 days before. So again, that's their curses, man. And that's who they are. Well, he's evil for helping you. And, you know, he done it unto me. You know, he's trying to do his good deed for the moment. Although I drove him a couple times. Well, you know, the weird part is people that have back trouble don't have what I had happen. So they immediately think that, oh, I've experienced what you've experienced. No, you haven't. And again, I really do believe there is some sort of external thing such as drugging. And they think that, you know, they're superior because they apply such things and can do it with such force and such acceptance by police departments and spy agencies. And there is no reason that's happening. One of the excuses they'll use is, well, the other people we can't get to. If we could, we would. And it's a lie. It's actually harder to get to me and do this to me than it is to do it to the other people. And no, I'm not admitting to a crime because I knew from the beginning that you were going to say that. I got to say what I got to say when I got to say it. Darn it, he said that. We got to wrote it up. See, that's how they do it. They're liars. And they go, well, you've challenged them. I didn't challenge anybody. You got to remember, I didn't say anything for quite a long period of time. Now, I investigated you to try to figure out what was happening to our courthouse. I wasn't sure I could go to anybody, and that's the way they wanted it. They wanted to buy everybody out or fear them, so I couldn't go to anyone. I couldn't trust anybody with that information. I couldn't even trust Jim with the majority of information. Because he may have been, he says to me, don't say anything. And again, I spoke to a cop, what was that guy's name? The guy used to eat all the now and laters, the black guy. He's like a Baltimore County job. darn, I can't remember his name. I've seen him recently in the last few weeks inside. I can't remember his name, but it's like grape now and later's. Hey, you want one? Nate. His name's Nate. So Nate's telling me, you know, like, because I'm new to what's going on. I've never had that happen to me before, or actually I did. I mean, it's happened for quite a few years, but at this point I'm drugged, so it's never happened to me before. At this point I can't laugh anymore because I'm drugged. And of course, there's a lot of planned psychological operation around that sort of just drugging. So again, you take one element of that away, and things are different. So if you've ever been drugged or you've ever been psychologically operated separately, it's different. So he's telling me, you know, they're just waiting to, you know, watching to see you come unglued. And I didn't know what to tell him. Because I'm thinking, okay, it makes sense, but this doesn't make sense. So what was the next thing that happened? Oh, yeah, so I speak to Jim. Jim says, don't say anything. But it was all wrong. So at a certain point, the question was, is somebody using Jim? I know Jim wasn't corrupt. Now, Jim wasn't the person he was supposed to be in life. He's told me some things that I don't even know why he told me it. I mean, people think some things about me that aren't true. But so Jim and Nate, so I had like law enforcement guys. I said, you know, 'cause I was trying to bounce it off them to figure out, you know, what do I do about this? Because it really was destroying my life and destroyed my family and everything else. So I didn't know how to articulate it to Nate because essentially I had no clue it was the CIA and people at that level of murder and mayhem. At that point, murder and mayhem. That be causing people to commit crimes. Forcing them. It's worse than cause. It's a psychological force that is lethal. You see, I didn't commit any crimes, and I almost died. Sent teams in to kill me. Believe me, I tested what they're doing. The more I align with what they say I'm supposed to be, the more they're going to try to kill me and torture me. So again, I was wondering, I'm thinking, are they feeding Jim information, which, you know, Hughes is a piece of shit. He probably did. And acting like, oh, he's my buddy. He's here to help me. That's what he was representing to everyone. And again, you know, for legitimate law enforcement, that has use, but not for what they used it for. And not at the level that they used it. Again, I don't agree to any CIA method pushing anybody in a direction that we say they shouldn't go. Or lawfully, or law says they shouldn't go. So what I think they were doing is they were feeding Jim this information so I wouldn't go to the IG and I wouldn't bring it up, because if I bring it up, then they can't say later, oh, he didn't say anything. You know, crooks do this when they're caught or something like that. So in other words, Jim was being used. If Jim knew that, he'd probably have been very angry. The information he was feeding me was false, because investigatively, it looked bad if I didn't say anything. And of course, I could have went to the IG. Would the IG have done what they were supposed to? Maybe back then, yes. Because I was around some people from internal, and they were like, this is before it went real bad, where they launched the big takeover of the government. And so a lot of these people did retire because it wasn't a safe place to be. But they went on to other jobs. But I was around an internal guy, and he was like cool with me. I'm like, well, you know, he's one of the guys that hired me. And I'm thinking, you know, and everything was okay. They represented over the years that everything was okay with internal because you know what everybody was doing to you. So it was okay that anything happened. It was all a scam. At the level that I say it is. Again, back then I couldn't articulate it. First off, I didn't even know CIA would do anything other than what they're supposed to do. Because I was a true believer in government. The kind of person they want there, you know. But they become so dirty that they became so paranoid that they had to kill us out. So you'll see in government, and again, the politicians are screwy because they're playing the game out. But if you go to government, you'll see that a lot of people get off the hook sometimes because it's what I say it is. They can't get to the level of saying, okay, CIA and a bunch of their cronies in the private sector operated this deputy U.S. Marshal into that. And I'm not only speaking about myself. There's a ton of us. So a lot of these people actually got paid also. So over the years, they became angry at that. So they developed a system where they wouldn't pay the person they were executing. Again, the officer in, what county is that? Orange County. That sheriff's deputy is being executed. And they're trying to dot their I's and cross their T's. And I believe she thinks she's dotting her I's and crossing her T's. And she is, not for a career in law enforcement, but for a career in suing law enforcement. And being a woman, I brought this up before, being a woman or a person of color is always easier to do that. I believe it is discrimination. I've been in Florida. I know what's happening down there. It's a big, deep state community. What happened is, and what I'm receiving is, she got past the first year probationary and they didn't get rid of her. Well, basically, the music she's listening to, they don't approve of. But that's all of it. So they're focusing on one or two songs. But, you know, if it's hoopty music, they're not into it. So again, they are trying to move everything right again in a wrong way. The only way you can move things right is if people agree to it. And people agree to it when you're not willing them and cursing them outside of, well, I only did it to 3 people, and that person did it to 3 people, and that person over did it to 3 people, and that person did it to 3 people, and that person did it to 900 people, and that's Donald Trump. So again, you know, we got pretty large number of Donald Trumps. That's 900 a year down in Florida. So again, you're not explaining to officers how to protect themselves to begin with. It's a scam. When you go in and you go to the what is that thing? Ethics, not ethics, but the internal affairs class. They're only telling you enough to get yourself in trouble. And then they select who they're going to tell the additional stuff to. No, the other people actually commit the crimes, and then they put it on the innocent people. Well, somebody did it. What was that person over there? Watch his life. You'll see it's how it's him. And then they start bringing in CIA and all that to alter the person, or it's her or they. We have an additional one. We have to say, you know, I'm not that well at saying him and her, you know, keeping it, you know, equal. That was like 10 years ago started, or 15. You had to say that, right? Now you have to say they. Like, oh, no. Now I can say him, her, they. Or is that only me? So again, Florida is racist. And it's pretty strange how in that, you know, how time changes, but not time changes. I was in Florida in, you know, 2007, 2008. They were racist as hell. They were flying Dixie flags in Naples, Florida, bigger than the truck itself. I got this 4x4 pickup truck. You know, it's what about 15 feet tops. They had a 30-foot flag. That's how sick they were. And then I like watched the Haitian people when it was driving around town. I'm like, wait a minute. Something going on I can't see. These Haitian people are reacting to that Dixie flag. So again, they're ruling the black people, the people of color, and they're driving around in a Dixie flag. That's Naples, Florida, the land of the millionaire and billionaires. So when you hear Don Bongino with a big home in Naples, you know where he's coming from. That's the reality. And then they'll go, well, look at the black people. They're all messed up, aren't they? You cursed them there. You psychologically operated them there. You spent time in psychological warfare to put them there. They go, look where they are. And that's CIA methods. They use CIA methods to alter the black community downward. But they also do it to other communities. And there are black people that aren't operated, because that's the scam. Hitler made a mistake of not including some Jews. And he did in the beginning, but then he put them in the oven and he messed it up. See, that's where you end up. Again, log cabin Republicans. Where'd you end up? In the ovens. Nazis are Nazis. I believe that Republicans cheated last election go around. That was the plan of that Donald Trump. Everybody's cheating against us, because if they tell you everybody's cheating against you, then you feel better cheating. Again, it's a CIA type operation. You know, this person that works here. So I'll tell you what, I had my Kansas Thin Blue Line hat on today, and I'm messing with them. Guys, leave it off for a few days. Watch them all get excited. They'll change their attack because they want you to feel comfortable without the hat. So today he said, now put it on. That's how deep they are in people's lives as to what kind of clothes they wear. And eventually when they get like that, what happens? The next thing you know, they're wearing drag. That's really what's happening. That's why God brought the Bible in the way that God brought it. You can't alter it for your own personal use. Just because it's sharper than a double-edged sword, you're not supposed to wield it as an offensive weapon. Because then, again, like I told you, it's more like a pendulum. When you do that, it turns into a pendulum and swings back at you. And again, you may not know it because you're rich, because Satan's paying you for doing such things with the scriptures. And then you end up in hell, all of you, and what happens? Yeah, I'm like something's in there. I'm going to speak about it. I'm a universal traveler. So I really don't, like, I'm a boomerang. God threw me out into existence to see what was going on. And eventually I just come back to God. But I have all these sensors on me and communications equipment, and I'm here on a planet that calls itself Earth. Not sure that it is. They have some scripture here. They call it the Bible. So, again, when we go back to the original plan didn't include devils, demons, antichrist, witches, and sorcerers, willing, spelling, and cursing people from churches, from mosques, from Sikh Gurdwaras, all temples of all different style and religion, willing people into drag, and then saying you shouldn't be in drag. So again, I can only say so much about it. Again, if you look, I don't say too much because I can't, because all I can say is this kind of thing. And again, God told me if you can't heal it, you can't judge it. And again, you can say, well, you didn't heal us. Oh, I healed you. And plenty of you were healed. And plenty of you went in the right direction before the cutoff date. So again, we know what you're doing. We being the heavenly host. Do I care what you're doing? No, I'd rather be living with a woman, living the life that God had for me here. Getting married, going to church. Well, from inside the church, I could do more work. But again, if the church is that evil, then you got to come out of her because she's Babylon at that point. And I'm not talking about this church or that church. That's the entire thing, man. I haven't yet to see not a Bible. I've yet to see a Bible. He doesn't read his Bible. See? FBI psychology here.
No, that scripture there, he just throws it out there. So, you know, he read that somewhere from one of the guys that's actually one of our specialists came up with that. He's one of our church advisors.
You know, they actually have people that they pay. Now, this is the point. They have people in religions that they pay to assess a religious victim. So they victimize religious people or people in religions, and then they have their specialists to come in. No, he's crazy. That's not religion. Put him up on the cross, quick. That's what's actually going on. It's endless. It's endless. It's endless with all the junk on them. No wonder they're so freaked out. Killing people and laughing. Well, I could easily have died or committed suicide back when I was in the government. Very easily. That's what it was designed for. But God. Well, we mustn't have did it hard because he's still alive. Bullshit. You did it harder than you did the Luna. Did it harder than you did the Dudley. People on the highway traveling. Speed trap, slow down! Hurry, put on your brakes, quick! I want the cop to see him brake. Before he hit his field, right before it, about an inch. That's actually God. God can show you stuff. That's like, you would think, oh, cop would hate it. Cop would think that's hilarious. Because then he'd know God was existing. See? I told you years ago, God was bringing it up in my head and been for about a couple weeks now. And I was driving. Again, I was waking up. I called it like and God called it, what we call it, a walkabout or whatever, that Crocodile Dundee. We all learned some Australian language or colloquial language. This is called a walkabout or something like that. So when I woke up, God said, this is normal. You're going on a walkabout. You're looking around. You're trying to figure out where you're supposed to be. And of course, they say, yeah, what's he doing there now? But I'm driving. And two distinct moments showed me that God does exist. And then you would say, well, maybe it was Satan. No, it's God. I know it's God. Like I told you, when I was 5 years old, about 5, God showed up. I said, your dad, he didn't say your dad's dead, but it's essentially my father passed away. And within a couple of years, God was there in my life showing that he's existent. Now, I didn't have all of it because I can't hear, right? I can't spiritually hear, but I would say things. It's like my daughter, my one daughter. I mean, just a really nice kid. It's just so sad what they did to our family. And I'm sure she's a nice older person. She has what they call, panic attacks, but I'm sure it's like allergies or something stupid. When I finally figure everything out, then I can't get back to them. That's what I think it is. Because allergies will play tricks on your head because you won't figure out, because it's Satan, of course. Like you won't figure out that you're not having panic attacks at every episode like that. And again, trauma can do that, but I think what's happening is the panic attack is occurring with an allergy attack. I have terrible indoor allergies at times, and again, that's probably a big one. I mean, it took me years to realize not to go to places with carpet or just minimal carpet, the dust mites and all that. So you actually have to live in a cooler environment. I haven't been that good at that, but they haven't been affecting me as much. Because anything above 70 degrees, dust mites go, whoa, and they procreate and come alive and all that. So these situations that they're trying to block me and steer my mind in another direction on, it was interesting. So I'm driving down the road, and I said I was in New York City, healing New York City after 9/11, probably around 2004, 2003, I think 2004. And I'm driving through New York City, and I'm coming up to a bridge. But God says, a small bridge, not a big one. And God says, you're going to be invisible here in about 30 seconds. I said, God, I believe you. I believe everything out of your mouth, but I don't see myself becoming invisible. Because, God's showing me I could see the future too and all that, right? So, wait, something's getting static here. No, that one. So, I look on the bridge and there's like about 6 people or something like that, 6, 8, 4, something like that. I think at least more than 4, but evenly spaced on the bridge. As soon as I get to the bridge, God says, you're invisible. And everybody on the bridge looked out, away from me. So again, this is a lot of what they're doing. So when they have the anti of that. So let's say there's a woman and I that should meet, we'll never meet because they do that type of thing. And even worse. So I knew, that was pretty neat. I was like, neat trick, God. So then I'm on the highway. Again, I think it's in New York. Maybe it could have been the Sawmill Parkway, although it could have been 80. I think it's 80 or what that northern highway in Pennsylvania. I can't remember exactly, but it's, somewhere northern Pennsylvania, southern New York or something like that. Maybe it wasn't the Sawmill. Maybe the Sawmill. No, I think it was somewhere in Pennsylvania. But I'm driving along, and there's these vehicles in front of me. And I notice that the vehicles are kind of like, in a rank and file. Because I'm trying to like drive and get in front of them and get somewhere. And there's this other vehicle that's like beside me or something. And God goes, okay, now go. And I start moving to the left, and this vehicle beside me starts moving to the right. And there's this lane up the right side and a lane up the left side, and there's like, I think 2 lanes in between. So it was like some major 4-lane highway or something for each side. And and we're moving at the same speed. I'm like, it's like, it's God showing me that he can control these things. But yet also showing me that he cannot control everything. What they will against, what they curse, he can't control. They didn't know that was about to happen, so he can do it. I mean, it's like me when I say the word glasses. I got to find my glasses. My glasses are right in front of me. And God says, see, I can still do that. But they're blocking the women. They're blocking your money. They're blocking everything because they specifically attack it. No, but they're going to heaven, right? Because they're making homeless people and poor people. Because that's what they deserve. We're with God. I have money. They won't tell you, but they think they have money. That's why rich people say that God's in control. God's rewarding them with riches, but Jesus never said that, right? But the Torah doesn't necessarily say it past a certain point. Because you have to follow the Torah as it's moving forward. You can't go back to the first day of the Torah and say it's the same thing that's happening today. Although some of it is, but you have to know how to apply it. And again, that's where some of the rabbis came in. That's where Jesus came in. And Jesus is some of the rabbis, believe it or not. Christianity is not Jesus' creation. He didn't even call it Christianity. He didn't even call it church. They put those words in there. Well, Paul, actually, that series of rabbis was very important because it's kind of like when you look at the law and what's actually happening, because people can't believe because they're like, well, wait a minute, something else is happening. Even if they don't know, they know that what you're speaking about isn't. And I got a lot of Jews. I do say a lot of Jews are like, wow, the law is a law, and some people break the law, some people don't. I let God judge it. Again, healing comes in. Again, when you get to Ezekiel 34, all bets are off. The only question is, who do you see Ezekiel 34 as being? And again, only God can tell you that. A lot of the people in the church, any victim. Again, the church and the conservatives are big to speak about victimhood, but every victim in the Bible is them. All of a sudden, it's the church. It's the Christian. And I guess Mel Brooks was kind of making fun of that in the Inquisition thing. Yeah, I was supposed to be with Mel Brooks. We're friends somehow. I guess the inside. Again, when I was a kid, I didn't know that, the mind connects and all that. So again, those type of people were in place. Again, what happened to Demi Moore was supposed to happen to me. So I should have been rescued somehow. I mean, back then they didn't even. It would have been simple even for the police department to rescue my parents because there was information. They had information that the bruises were showing up and that kind of thing. Black eyes. Again, today, I'd have been with a police officer probably within an hour. Right. Spare the rod, spoil the child only works when you're not willing your child to be something that they shouldn't be. And again, that wasn't what was happening. That wasn't something I shouldn't be. It's a you can do no right kind of thing. And then they will it. So again, what I've done in my lifetime being in these places and being abused, and it wasn't God's plan. God's plan was for me to live whatever life I could in a quiet life. That's once I was born. Again, I wasn't supposed to be born into a body. I was just simply here to help. But Earth hears those voices and they kill it. And they want it to be there and kill it. So that's Jesus, that's me, it's pretty much a lot of us. We're not from this planet. Nothing. I didn't create this planet. God didn't create it. Your thoughts created it, and your wills created it in the spirit prior to its creation. Now, God's energy created it based upon your specifications. Well, God has to go through it, or God can't move it. Again, once God creates it, then God can put everybody that's in it somewhere to come back home if God can. So again, I call it, I make the joke about the Venus flytrap, is that it's an Earth flytrap. That's why a lot of the Native Americans, I remember the sky, they remember the sky, because that's where they came from. But it doesn't mean that that's the final resting place. Because the sky is active. It's an active spiritual, physical place. Again, form and formless is not, having form is not physical. Again, well, because people say God has no physical property per se. It takes something else. Again, God is here in all of this, but the physical property is something else. Again, physics, and I told you before, physics and God will meet along the way if we last this long here for that one. God told me it's so, God and physics are so connected that you could actually, if they didn't kill me, we probably could have built it in my lifetime, like already. There's a meter you can build based upon some physical principle to detect the presence of God at whatever level it is. Again, God is here where I am right now, and God is where you are at, but there is a certain level of God's presence. When they block you, that's another block. So again, they reduce God's presence in a physical way. It means that everybody in a particular place on earth may only receive 20% of God or God's communications or whatever it is. But then you personally are cursed in a certain way, and you can only be receiving 1% or 0%. And the curses they use are so big in general, and I don't mean big in a big way, but they're so large and all-encompassing that they're actually blocking God almost completely. In other words, if you're cursed from helping me, you might have to die for that to happen. So again, we see Dudley, we see Luna, we see my neighbor. I didn't know we were going to go here, God. Thank you. That's neat. God's wrapping it up here. Sometimes my body's along for the ride. Now, they don't even have to help me for that to happen, because they may be strong enough to push through it. So they see to attack them. Again, I helped people that were being executed by the government criminals in the government. They were government officers, even police officers. This guy had this internal. He was a state guy. I was broken up over it. I didn't even know about the inside. I guess I was inside with him or something. Maybe he didn't even know. Like, that came up the other day, and that's probably pertinent. A lot of people don't know it's me, and they won't let people know it's me. They think it's, the guy that's doing cocaine with them or something like that. Like, what's that guy's name that was doing drugs that just got killed by that other guy? In his head, I could be there being nice to him, and he believes, because of what you've all done, he believes it's the guy that he was traveling with in the car. So when he assesses who that is, he can't, because he thinks he's actually a nice guy inside. And a woman came up to me years ago. I told you, before I woke up, but God made sure that God brought it up my head once I woke up and was more aware. She said, my husband can't be himself. And God said, because the thing in her head is not her husband, that she's not supposed to be married to him. So it happens with me too. Women fall in love with me, and it's the federal agent doing or the state officer doing the evil magic. So they're having an experience with me inside and never figure it out, or maybe one day figure it out, and then it would be too late. But meanwhile, the state guy, the local officer, federal officer, having sex with them. And they feel okay because they think it's the guy that loves them inside. Again, I don't have all the people that I love, because God, again, said, well, I've used your personality when I woke up, before I knew anything. I've used your personality. It's me, but I use your personality to, like, connect to people and, communicate with them. It's quite effective. So God's not stupid. God's very scientific. So God puts beings, places to be a representative, and then also, no, not the church, not the religions. Religions receive things from the representative, and then they usually screw it up. So everything is kind of dated. It's only a certain, has a wear out on this planet because it's so evil. Where'd Larry go? That's going to freak somebody out. Here, I think that's one of the communications they have with another person. So again, they try to put it in my mind, like, go back to Santa Fe. That one woman, remember, she was finally getting to you. She was in the office. I perceive they put her in the office as a cuck fest. Now, of course, because I was leaving, she was different. We really connected kind of the last day or day before I left. It was just horrible having that happen. It was the day before I left because it wasn't snowing. But again, it's fake, because if I would have stayed, it would have been different. And again, I don't know if it's true, but my friend told me what happened to her, and it didn't end well. They made her crazy. Again, if I would have stayed, she'd have been the queen of the ball. But since I didn't leave, because I left, they had no use for her, and they killed her out. She probably didn't give up sex to the right person or something. That's part of what they were trying to get me to do, have sex with gay men. They put gay men around me all the time. I tested everything. They wanted me to have sex with kids, and I tested that. I said no. And I refute what you're actually doing to supposedly test somebody. They all know the truth of what happened. But they are liars. from the pits of hell, and they'll go back there one day. Yeah, hospital looks better actually. So the healing, if that was happening, I know I did a little bit of it. Other people may have healed it. It's off there in the distance. Looks better. We have to realize you're healing people that are cursed. So even though you're in that system, you're part of a system that's cursing you and cursing your efforts because the people are cursed that you're treating. So again, if you wouldn't give up and everybody, you know, to a certain degree wouldn't give up and give into it, then we'd all survive together in a better world. But that's where the better world went. And again, I'm going to arrange it so you can't control where your curses go. If your curses, and again, that, you know, that's with God and God's doing, that's God's intelligence. So what God's doing is God's making that curse find them also and find their families. Because they know, like, you know, that doesn't happen to us. Trump, I'm sure Trump's thought that, but that doesn't happen to me. I don't get convicted. That's for those people. And there's other people like that. Just Trump's one of those examples where you could actually see it. He doesn't tell you that part of it. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.
Listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry, presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.